whiskeys from the Method and Madness collection. I was drawn to it by the name. I was just kind of looking around for something unique and different to try in my local liquor store. And the name just really jumped out at me. I think it was kind of a weird week at work, and I felt like, yeah, a little madness going on. So I thought I would try out this whiskey. I didn't really know much about it at first. And after trying it and falling in love with it, I thought it was worth diving into it a little bit more. So the Method in Madness is produced out of the Middleton distillery. So they're part of that same parent company, the Middleton Distribution Group and or Distiller Group. And they have a bunch of different whiskeys. I'm sure you'd recognize a few of them at least. So I like to think of it, if there were siblings, the oldest sibling, the firstborn, the type A, would be like the Middleton Very Rare, excellent, wonderful, expensive, but really high quality, top notch whiskeys. And then there's the name everyone knows, Jameson whiskey. And there's a few others that I've recently discovered. I've actually tried something from all of their different brands. We have Powers Classic, and then Redbreast, which has recently been one of my absolute favorite whiskeys, the Redbreast 12. So if we are thinking about these as being siblings, I would say Method and Madness is kind of like the wild middle child, right? Like the creative sort, one of the middle children where you're thinking to themselves, wow, they've really got a different way of looking at things. And you sort of wonder, are they going to be all right? But then they have some great gallery show in New York and sell out and become like famous artists. And you're like, oh, wow. I guess that creativity really led them somewhere beautiful. And that's how I feel I was led to with the Method and Madness single pot still. Now, I haven't tried any of their other whiskeys. This one is the single pot still finished in French chestnut casks. That was one of the other things that drew me to it. I was interested in all these different finishing, cask selections brands have been doing. They've been getting very creative and finding different things. And I hadn't ever seen French chestnut before. So I was like, oh, okay. The name was really cool. The bottle looks really cool, like the artwork on the side. But they didn't just finish it in French chestnut. They've also finished it in sherry casks. So they did a three-step process, right? There's the normal maturation in the ex-bourbon barrels, which so many different places do, mostly because to make bourbon, you can only use the barrel once, and then after that, it's sold on the secondary market, which makes them abundantly available. And then you can get a little more creative and have some fun with the finishing. So they were able to find some sherry casks, finished in there for a little while, and then moved on to the French chestnut, which is unusual, right? Like it takes a lot of effort to take all of the liquid out of one cask, put it in another one, put that back. I mean, that's work, right? That's time, that's effort. You're exposing it to risk, right? You've got some air, things can happen. You just never know. So to do that 3 times is fairly unique, but I think it turned out quite nice. So the color on this one is a little almost orangey. I wonder it was aged in sherry casks, right? So you're going to pick up a little bit of a different sort of color from that process. And then from the French chestnut. And when you give it a nose, to me, it just sort of smells very fresh, almost like it rained overnight. You're out going for a walk in the woods in the morning. It doesn't necessarily smell earthy, but it does smell like just really fresh. Like the greenery is just alive and everything is flourishing. Along with like some hints of vanilla, a little bit of sweetness, again from the sherry. Kind of like a little more toasted, like we're at the toffee level of sweetness on here. I feel like it's a lot more spicy than you expect, and it isn't the kind of spicy or heat that you get from like pepper. So I don't know that I would necessarily describe it as like a pepper heat so much as like you've got some really fresh ginger that's really spicy. You know how sometimes when you have like ginger candy and you go to eat that, and it's just kind of this hit of spice, and maybe you weren't quite expecting it. Like some pieces are just a little more spicy than others. This is definitely on the spicier end of that spectrum, but in a really pleasant way, right? Like you've still got the sweetness there. It's almost to me more of like a date syrup kind of sweetness from, the sherry casks. And I would say one of the fruit notes that I get is more like a not quite bitter stone fruit. You know how apricots like aren't necessarily super sweet, but you still enjoy an apricot. And you've got like the sweetness from the date syrup balanced out with the apricot. This definitely is one of my like reward whiskeys, right? So if you're thinking about when you're going to have something, its place in my whiskey cabinet is like you had a week, right? Like you've had a big deliverable, you had a big event, you had something happen that there was a buildup for, and you want to have some kind of a celebration. So it's not an inexpensive whiskey. I think it's around 80 US dollars, and it's definitely more of celebratory. But it isn't quite like someone had a baby or you got a promotion. Like it isn't, Middleton Rare level of celebratory, but it's just delightful. It's a little unexpected and fun. And so at the end of something where you just want to like cap it off and well, I mean, you can see we've been through a bit of this, and I definitely would like to, I want to say repurchase the same one, but given just the creative efforts and the pushing of the envelope that these people are doing over there at Method and Madness, I'm really curious to try either a single grain or some of their other varieties. They only have, I think, 4 or 5 different whiskeys that are within reason. They have a lot of special releases that are very creative, but again, we're talking more like you got a nice promotion level of celebratory. And I'm just looking for, you had a big deliverable that quarter, nailed it, had a good time, or at least you're done, and you just want to sit back and celebrate and have something that really feels like a treat. This whiskey definitely to me is like a nice treat, beautiful summer, lovely expression. Like it doesn't feel too heavy. And this does have a nice finish. Like it does linger. I feel like it turns a little almost like anise, like kind of black licorice, but not quite that much. It's not really mentholy or medicinally. It's just there's a little extra something there. It feels like kind of like after you've had apricot, right? Like there's that little almost kind of bitter flavor that's left. So overall, I would say I'm very happy that I stumbled across the Method and Madness whiskey and decided to give it a try. I don't know if I'll buy exactly the same one because I'm curious to try the others, but this was so good. I kind of want to still get the same one. Let me know in the comments if you've tried any of the others from Method and Madness. Like, I know I should branch out, and I'm sure I will at some point. What I need to do is talk one of my friends into buying another one and then letting me try some of it. That's always the best when you have, some other people and you can, spread the love, right? Like different people can get different bottles and you can have, either your own tasting or just if you're at a friend's house, have a little dram with them and try out some different whiskeys. But please let me know which is your favorite from the Method and Madness series and which I should try next. But thank you all for joining me, and I'll see you in the next chapter.